talking about currencies, do you feel that the US dollar is manipulated?
Oh, the favorite question.
There's a few conspiracy theorists that are going to be sitting out there watching this.
Yes, of course there are. The Gold Antitrust Data Association is famous for it. It depends on what you think is a conspiracy. There was an act of Congress in the early part of the 20th century that allowed the American government to intervene in the currency and gold markets and trade it in order to stabilize the currency. They have had that privilege for almost 100 years now. It's not a conspiracy, it's a fact. Part of that ability is the ability to intervene on the option, to buy and sell gold. Up until the London gold pool ended in the 60s or 70s, I believe, they actually bought and sold physical gold. So, and that maintained the price. So right now, I believe America has about 8,000 tons of gold. They used to have 24,000 tons. And from about the turn of the century to 1970-ish, they sold that to maintain the price of gold. That they were about to completely run out of gold. They depleted their stocks by 2/3, and they finally discovered a much better way to intervene in the gold market, which was their privilege according to this act of Congress. And they started doing that on the paper market. So instead of buying and selling gold, they bought and sold gold options. And that allowed them to stabilize the price. So they would buy a put option or a call option on gold, and those people that were on the other side of that transaction had to go hedge out that in the physical market with a certain amount of gold, and that worked as a dampening method or a supporting method for the gold price. Now, they can't completely control it, but they can definitely temper its rises and falls. And those open market transactions are not publishable. Part of the act of Congress was they didn't have to publish or be transparent about their actions because they were seen to be protecting the currency, which was within the national interest. So that's what happens. And they are allowed to, like any classified information, keep those transactions private. Is that a conspiracy? I'll let you judge that.
As far as the Gold Antitrust Action Committee is concerned, they see it as a conspiracy because I think they were saying 15 years ago that gold should be up at $3,000 an ounce or whatever. And they're still, I assume they're still around.
What they have an issue with is not necessarily the conspiracy, but they think that what the government does should be public. I'm not in a position to comment on the American government doing that or not doing that. I don't necessarily know that any other governments in the world allow those kind of transactions to balance out their currency. Interestingly, I think one of the reasons that the American government has tried to intervene in the gold market to stabilize its currency is because it's one of the only ways America can intervene in its own currency, even if it's only slightly. Unfortunately, America has actually one of the only truly free-floating currencies in the world. And because it's the free-floating currency of the world and the reserve currency of the world, the petrodollar, and the currency that most of major global contracts are denominated in, that means other people have the ability to influence it by buying and selling hedges on the dollar because they want to protect the contracts that they have to pay out in the longer term. They keep it in their vaults, which they can hoard or push onto the market whenever they want. So America has less ability than most to control their currencies. And because of that, I think they've maintained their ability to interact in the gold market to protect their currency because it truly is one of the few tools they have left.
Well, it'll be interesting to see whether the US dollar in years to come is still the world's reserve currency.
It's a very good point, and I think that America has a status of reserve currency. It's done them very well for a number of reasons that are beyond the scope of this conversation. But recently, China's entrance into the SDR among other things, have suggested that certain nations, especially the BRIC nations of the world, are slightly tired of America being the reserve currency of the world, which gives them a great deal of power, geopolitically speaking. And interestingly enough, the BRIC countries of the world have also largely been stockpiling gold to backstop their own currencies in order to give their currencies a stronger position in global trading.
And how many dollars are they holding as well, which potentially at some point they could start to sell?
Huge numbers of dollars. But it is interesting to note that all of these countries have been increasing at a rapid pace their gold stocks, because I think they want to give more weight and solidity to their own currencies in addition to the reserve dollars that they're holding.